Welcome back to the series on how and why cells are the basic unit of life. This is part 2 of the series. In part 1, we discussed the discovery of cells, the cell theory, and the different types of cells. If you're interested in those topics, make sure to check out part 1 before continuing with this video. Now, in today's lesson, we will begin with another important question. What is the size of a cell? Cells are microscopic structures that form the foundation of all living organisms. They carry out every activity necessary for life, from producing energy to growing, repairing, and reproducing. Cells are extremely small, so small that most of them cannot be seen with the naked eye. To observe them, scientists use powerful instruments called microscopes. Despite their tiny size, cells carry out all the complex processes necessary for life. But cells are not all the same size. Some cells are extremely small, while others can be comparatively larger. Understanding the size of cells helps us appreciate just how incredible it is that all the machinery of life fits into such a microscopic space. So, let's explore how big or how small cells actually are. Most cells measure only a few micrometers in size, which is why they cannot be seen with the naked eye. To understand just how tiny this is, consider this example. A single human hair is about 70 micrometers thick. This means that several cells could fit across the width of just one strand of hair. For instance, the size of red blood cells is about 7 to 8 micrometers in diameter. Many bacteria are even smaller, usually measuring around 1 to 5 micron. In comparison, most eukaryotic cells are larger, typically ranging from 10 to 100 micrometers in size. But despite their microscopic size, there is one cell on Earth that is large enough to be seen and even touched with our bare hands. Do you know which cell it is? Write your answer in the comment section. And if you are not sure, don't worry. I will reveal the answer at the end of this video. Now, let's talk about the structure of the cell. Although cells vary in shape and size, most of them share a basic structural organization. A typical cell is mainly composed of 3 fundamental parts. In simple terms, the outer part is the cell membrane, the middle region is the cytoplasm, and the innermost part is the nucleus. Now let's briefly understand each of these components one by one. The cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane, forms the outer boundary of the cell. It acts as a protective barrier that separates the internal environment of the cell from the external surroundings. However, the cell membrane is not just a simple wall. It is selectively permeable, which means it carefully controls which substances enter and leave the cell. In this way, the cell membrane helps maintain the internal balance of the cell. Next, we have the cytoplasm. Inside the cell membrane, there is a jelly-like substance known as the cytoplasm. It fills the interior of the cell and provides a medium in which many cellular activities take place. The cytoplasm contains many important structures called organelles. Each of these organelles perform specific tasks that help the cell function properly. In fact, many essential chemical reactions necessary for life occur within the cytoplasm. Finally, we have the nucleus, which is the innermost part of the cell. The nucleus is often referred to as the control center of the cell because it contains the cell's genetic material or DNA. This DNA carries the instructions for growth, development, and reproduction. By controlling gene expression and cellular activities, the nucleus ensures that the cell functions in an organized and coordinated way. So, in simple terms, the cell membrane protects the cell and regulates the movement of substances. The cytoplasm hosts most of the internal activities of the cell. The nucleus controls the cell's functions. But the story of the cell does not end here. Inside the cytoplasm, there are many specialized structures called organelles, and each of them performs a unique function. In the upcoming videos, we will explore these organelles one by one, discussing their structure, functions, and detailed roles in the life of the cell. For now, this was a brief introduction to the basic structure of a cell. But have you ever wondered how such complex systems work so efficiently? When we examine the levels of biological organization, the cell is the level where life truly begins. In unicellular organisms, a single cell performs all life processes on its own. But in multicellular organisms like plants and animals, millions to trillions of cells work together in coordination to sustain life. In biology, there is a fundamental principle that helps explain this efficiency. It is known as the division of labor. Division of labor means that different parts of a system specialize in performing specific tasks. By sharing responsibilities, the system becomes more organized and much more efficient. This principle operates at two important levels in biology: within cells and across cells in multicellular organisms. Within a cell, the division of labor is carried out by specialized structures called organelles. Each organelle performs a distinct function that is necessary for the survival of the cell. For example, mitochondria produce energy for the cell and are often called the powerhouses of the cell. Ribosomes are responsible for protein synthesis, producing the proteins that the cell needs to function. The Golgi apparatus modifies and packages proteins so they can be transported to different parts of the cell. And the endoplasmic reticulum helps in the synthesis and transport of important molecules. By dividing these tasks among different organelles, the cell can operate in a highly organized and efficient manner. But this principle does not stop at the cellular level. In multicellular organisms, the division of labor extends across different types of cells. Different cells become specialized to perform specific roles within the body. For instance, red blood cells are specialized to transport oxygen throughout the body. Muscle cells are designed for contraction and movement. Nerve cells or neurons transmit electrical signals that allow communication within the body. And skin cells provide protection by forming a barrier between the body and the external environment. So whether we look inside a single cell or at the millions of cells that make up a complex organism, the same principle applies. Division of labor allows biological systems to function efficiently and in a highly coordinated way. Now let's come back to the question I asked earlier in the video. Is there a cell that we can see with the naked eye and even touch with our bare hands? The answer is an egg. Yes, a hen's egg is actually a single cell. Even though it looks large, the yolk of the egg is one cell that can develop into a chick. And here's another interesting fact. The largest single cell found on Earth is the ostrich egg. If you found this video helpful, click here to watch part 1. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in that video.